I'm Fred Harmon.
I'm Diane Harmon. I'm 67 years old.
Oh yeah, he already did this
Oh,
little.
okay. I grew up in rural North Georgia on a chicken farm, and we also raised beef and hogs, and had our own supply of food. We had a garden every year. We canned and froze everything that we ate. So, it's just a very simple way of life.
And this was in Georgia.
This was in Cherokee County, Canton, Georgia.
I understand that you have experience with old timey healing. Can you tell me about it?
Yes, we didn't go to the doctors back then every time you had something wrong. You relied on knowledge of people around you, and just went with natural medicine. I fell once and split my hand open, and at a neighbor's house, and she cleaned it with turpentine and put soot, which is soot is the residue left when you burn wood in a fireplace or a heater, and so it stopped the bleeding. She taped it up, put gauze around it, and that was the rest of it. And today you would have had to have stitches, but back then they just made do with what they had. Also, I had croup as a child. I don't know. Today it's called bronchitis, but back then it was real severe croup, and different remedies worked. Vicks Save is what we called it, which is Vicks Vapor Rub. You took it and put it in boiling water, throw a sheet or anything like that over your head, and made a croup tent out of it. But also, my mama gave it to me on a spoon because I was so bad while she was getting the water boiling, because you didn't have things like we do today. She had to put the water on and boil it and get it hot. Also, I don't remember the certain kind of wood it was, but you measured a child and cut this wood the length of a child, and supposedly put it in the attic. And when they outgrew the stick, they also were supposed to be cured of the croup. I don't know what worked, but when I was about 12, I quit having croup. So I don't know what.
Did your mother cut a piece of wood?
Oh, yes. We had the piece of wood. And I also, of a night, she would rub the Vicks Save on my chest and back and heat fabric and put on it to keep me from having croup during the night. And then you got up the next morning and washed that off and put powders on it to close the pores of your skin back up, so you would not be exposed to the elements.
And you would say this was very common practice
Oh,
in
yes.
the area?
Oh, yes. That's what people did.
Did you know people with other gifts of healing?
I did. I had warts taken off of my fingers. I was going to cosmetology school, and they advised me to get the warts removed. So I mentioned to a man that had a store there that I was going to have that done, and he said, "Well, sell them to me." And I said, "Okay." And he gave me a penny, and he stood there and rubbed my fingers, just talking. Didn't say anything to me, but told me not to look at them. He said, "Just forget about them." And around 2 weeks later, I happened to think about them, and they were gone.
Had you tried other medicines to get rid of them?
Oh, compound W that you put on them, all that kind of stuff. And
It didn't work?
It did not work. Nothing that you could buy at a store worked. And so this worked, though. What he done, I do not know. What he said or done, other than rub my fingers.
Was this a common thing that you knew of people that would buy warts?
I'd heard of it before, but never had it done before.
And you believe it worked?
I know it worked. I mean, to this day, I do not have the warts. So they never came back. So I know that it worked.
Are there any other gifts you know of to heal any other things?
Oh yeah, one of the neighbors, thrush, people call it thrush now, but back then we called it thrush when babies mouth would get coated and they couldn't take a bottle. My nephew was like that, and so my mom took it to took the baby to this man, the neighbor that he was the seventh son, and that is supposed to be a gift. And he took the child, and the next day the baby was able to take his bottle.
What does the seventh son mean?
I have no idea.
Is it the seventh son of a seventh son?
Yeah, seventh son of a seventh son. I don't know. It's biblical,
Okay.
but I don't know really anything other than that.
So the seventh son of a seventh son is supposed to have certain
Powers.
powers or abilities.
Right.
And this man's was for thrash.
Yes.
Do you know what he gave to the baby or what he did?
He took him off, and I do not know what he did. If he said something, I don't know. He did not do it around anyone.
So it was very private.
Very private.
Would you say that most of these things, these healings, are very, very private?
Yes, they are. You have a gift, is what people always called it. They had the gift. You can pass the gift down, but you have to have a relationship of feelings towards the person you pass it to. They have to be some feeling with it. They don't just give it to anyone. And there's people that can do fire, draw fire. They can stop bleeding, stop blood. Poison oak, they can, heal poison oak. Different things that they have the natural ability to do. And it is biblical. Most of it is all biblical. So, and they do pass it on to other people. But they have to have a relationship and a feeling to do so.
Do you know how these people came about these abilities?
Someone passed it on to them. Like I have a friend that her mother-in-law passed it to her. She said she asked her one day, did she want this, be able to do that? And she said, yeah, I've been wanting you to ask me. And so she passed it on to her.
And where do you think these gifts originally came from?
I think they're really from the Bible. I think you have to be connected with the Bible. I think you have to have that kind of relationship. And I think it is a deep spiritual person that does it.
And generally it's passed to someone in their family most of the time?
It can be. I had a lady once that she did the thrash, and she asked me, did I want to know how to do it? And for some reason I did not. I told her I didn't feel, I guess, worthy of that being passed on to me. I don't know any other word to use, but I just didn't feel like that I was the person that it needed to be passed to.
Do you, so how did she go about offering it to you? Did she just ask you one day?
She said to me, would you like to know how to do this and let me pass it on to you before I die? And it took me by surprise, and I thought about it for a minute, and I said, I don't think that I'm the person for that.
So she got a feeling that
Yes.
you could be a good person to pass this
Yes.
gift on to. And who was this?
Dimple DeBoard.
And she was your friend?
Yes.
So a good friend. And why did you not feel that you were worthy?
I just didn't think it was right. I just did not have that it was something I wanted to be entrusted to. I told her no.
Do you think that she felt, or any healers, they feel a sense of responsibility to pass it on to someone, or do some of them decide not to pass it on?
I think sometimes it's probably they don't choose to pass it on. I think they don't have the right connection with someone to pass it on. I think there has to be a connection between the two people to pass it on. I don't think it's somebody you choose just out of randomly say, hey, I'm going to pass it to her. I think there has to be a connection.
And how do people generally feel about these gifts? Are some people kind of frightened by them, or do people embrace them? How do people feel about it?
I think they feel gifted. I really do. I think that they realize that is a gift from God, and that they feel, they treasure it. I think it's a sacred thing within them, that they actually really feel like it's a sacred gift.
And would you say that it's as common as it used to be when you were growing up? Is it less common?
Less common. I think people look at it now as more devil worshiping than they do gift from God. I think people are more afraid of it and disbelieving in it. People used to believe in prayer, and they believed in the spiritual being, that it was God healed, and now I think they don't believe like they used to.
So there's sometimes a misconception maybe about
Yes.
what this is.
Yes, definitely.
And is that generally by people within the community or people outside the community?
Outside. I think people that are originally as they call them, the old timers of the community, they still believe. But as you've had people moving into your community, and people from other areas that move in other cultures, I think they see it as they're scared of it because they don't understand it and they don't believe.
Do you think this could contribute to maybe apprehension for these people to talk about it, discuss it, things like that?
I think so. I don't think people are as freely. See, it was such a common practice when I was growing up that we didn't think anything about it. I mean, that was just a natural way of life. And when someone got sick, and they knew somebody that could help them, and that was a natural way of life. And now people are so used to modern medicine that they really don't believe in this.
Around how many people do you know that have some kind of healing gift?
Oh. Personally, no. Probably a dozen or more. Oh. Know a lot of people that knows people. As you know, I do hair, and I come in contact with a lot of people, and there's a lot of them that knows people that still believes in this. A lot of the rural areas, outlying areas, still believe in this.
You mentioned earlier some gifts, including drawing fire.
Yes.
Could you explain a little bit what that is?
It takes, when someone gets burned, the burning fire in a burn, they can literally draw that hurt and burn out.
Do you know anyone that has either been healed or has the gift?
I know someone that has the gift. Margaret Allen, a good dear friend of mine.
And how many people do you think she's healed?
Oh, there's just no telling how many. And she also told me about she can heal prowl, P-R-O-W-L, flesh. She told me, she did tell me how to do that. And you take alum and put it on low heat in a pan till it bubbles. And it has to, all bubble. And then you let it cook totally and put it in a clean white cloth, and you pound it into a powder, which is the same as silver nitrate. And you put it on, where you have a wound in the new flesh and it's not healing right, you put it on that and bandage it. In just a few days, that will be totally healed.
But she will not discuss the drawing fire.
She will not. She told me if she got the right feeling, she would. But so far, she has not.
And does she possess any other gifts?
She can stop bleeding.
Can you explain that a little bit?
All I know, if you have a cut that, or a wound that that is hemorrhaging back, that you can call and she can stop that.
Does that also work internally on internal bleeding, or?
Now, I'm not sure. I do not know. That's not something I could answer without asking her.
Do you know anyone that maybe not healed by her or healed by somebody else for bleeding?
No.
Or drawing fire?
No. I know a lot of other people has this gift because I've heard people talk about that they have the gift. But right now, she's the one that I know that does it.
So, generally, what are these people willing to talk about when it comes to this?
It's according who they're talking to. They will do it. If somebody calls on them that's in need, they will take care of that person. They will do, what they need to do. But to just sit and discuss it with somebody, they have to have the right feeling to do that.
And generally, they'll tell you that they have the gift.
That's usually someone within their circle that knows them, knows they have the gift.
So you may not even know this person has the gift.
Exactly. Yep. It's not something they would readily say to you, oh, I have the gift to draw blood, stop bleeding, or I have the gift to draw fire. They will not tell you that unless somebody comes in need to them, and then they will tell you. And usually it's through somebody that knows somebody is how they do it.
So this is something that if you were not connected in the community, you would probably not even knew existed.
Exactly.
Much less who possessed the gifts.
Exactly.
And what will they not tell you? Will they tell you anything about how they do it, how they got it?
Not unless they have the right feeling towards you. They have to have the feeling to ever talk about it to you.
Do you know anything about the feeling? Have they ever said?
When they tell you that they have to have the right feeling, you know what they're talking about. It has to be a connection, an inner soul connection that you know to talk to that person.
Do you think it's related to any Native American heritage or practices?
I'm sure it started with the Appalachians. I'm sure that this all came down through generations, and I'm sure it started with the Indians. I'm sure.
Or some of them, but some might probably come from Scottish people and English people and stuff. Our forefathers had come here too. I'm sure they brought it with them.
And just like our neighbor, he had arthritis and rheumatism, they called it back then, and he found the herb rat's vein, which is poison, but you put it in whiskey, and the first week he took a teaspoon, I think it was a spoonful anyway, 3 times a day. The second week he took it twice a day. The third week he took once a day. And he just always vowed, as long as he lived, that he did not have any joint pain after that. So there's different herbs that they used. Not only the supernatural healing they had, but they knew what herbs to use. They knew what you put together, and that would help what. Down through the times, they knew exactly which one worked for what and how to do it.
So, what areas do you know of where it came from originally, or what areas it's still practiced in?
A lot of the people in the rural areas here still practice a lot of that. A lot of people, they don't go to get their own herbs anymore, which is what really this was all about. Some people go to herb stores, which is not natural herbs. Most of them are not what people used to do, and that is where they cross over the line there. But a lot of people still, that knows about herbs, the more of the rural Appalachian people, mountain people as they call them, a lot of them around our area that lives in the Waleska area, a lot of them still do a lot of different potions that they take for different things.
Why do you think it's the older generation that still practices, or do you know of any people in younger generations that may have a gift, believe in this, practice this?
I really hadn't thought of that, but probably it's a dying art is probably what it is. It's probably the older generation, probably much younger than my generation. They look at it as witchcraft, voodoo, something on that line. They don't believe in this. They just don't believe. So it's probably a dying art now.
And why do you think that change happened from looking at it from a gift to witchcraft or some kind of dark thing? Why do you think that change happened?
Education. I think that people, back then people did not get higher education. They made do with what they had from being sick all the way down. And so I think that as we get educated, we're losing that art.